voice recipes. Today we're going to look at the Transaudio ProCase 6. This is the synthesizer that you can see before you now. Built in Melbourne 1976, very rare, only 3 of them built, and if you want to use one you have to come to Melbourne Electronic Sound Studios to use them. This video will take you through how to make a single synthesizer voice with this machine. It's designed to get you started with it when you come to use it here. So when you come down to mess, you'll see that there are 3 coloured pins associated with this synthesizer. They all do exactly the same thing. The colours are designed for ease of use when you're designing voices. So I'm going to start directly with connecting an oscillator to an output. So the first thing we can do is take oscillator 1, track it along the matrix, plug it into the output. If I turn up the volume here on channel 1, we should be able to hear this oscillator. If we track here to the oscillator, you have the pitch, you have the range. It can act as a low frequency oscillator. You hear that click. You have the shape, waveform, and level. Quite simple, very standard oscillator procedure. So that's the simplest possible circuit you could make in terms of a synth voice. When signal comes into this matrix, we think about it as coming in from the left and up out of the top, and I like to think of an imaginary space here that comes around so that signal comes out here and then reappears on the matrix in this direction. So if we think about oscillator 1 here going across into the filter signal, we're going to patch it into the first filter, and then we're going to take filter number 1, signal comes out and around filter number 1 comes out here. We can hear that. There's the filter. You'll hear that it's almost self-oscillating. You have to be quite careful with these filters. They self-oscillate quite low on the resonance dial compared to what you might be used to. So that's an oscillator running through a filter. We'll now take that out and think, okay, we've got the oscillator into the filter. We come around here. The filter is now going to go into an envelope generator. Signal comes up and out here again. The envelope signal comes in here, envelope number 1, output number 1. The envelope generator here is now being triggered by the sequencer. You can choose other triggering options. It could be triggered randomly, or if the sequencer is off, you can trigger it manually. But we're going to look at it in relation to the sequencer. So if I turn that up now, we should be able to hear that tone that we heard before with the oscillator now articulated rhythmically by the envelope. When you start a patch here, always make sure the envelopes are turned all the way down to the left, and then you can start to tune it with the decay dial, particularly in this case, final decay. So then you have a pulse. So once you've organized a very simple synth voice like that, an oscillator going into a filter, going to the output, you can then interject in that circuit. And you can interject in various ways to control aspects of what's happening in that synth voice. So a classic thing to do, for example, would be to take these voltage stages of the sequencer and use those to control the frequency of oscillator 1. I'm going to start just with 2 steps on the sequencer, so that when I put this pin sequencer into oscillator 1 here, we'll hear a change. So you'll hear that those 2 steps are now the ones we can hear. We can then change the rate here. And then we can also increase the number of steps, giving you lots of possibility there. And then so the next thing you would probably want to do is change the filter. So we can hear that changing slowly over time. So it might be nice to use a LFO, low frequency oscillator, to control the sweep of the filter. So normally what I would do is start with oscillator 6, make sure it's switched to low frequency, put to sine wave position to give it a nice gentle curve. The level will determine how wide that control voltage is, and then we can just patch it here on the find oscillator 6, move across to VCF, which is the frequency control for the filter, and you'll hear that that starts to change straight away. And we can increase the speed of that change, and then also the severity of it here. So there you have a very simple synthesizer voice created on the Transaudio ProCase 6. And And of course, the possibilities are endless from here, but that's it's your job to come down and explore those down here at MESS. All right, thanks for listening.